Good afternoon, Northwest Indiana. This is Preston Ruby, Republican candidate for mayor of Gary, Indiana for 2027, and I wanted to take a few minutes today to explain why I support Barb Regnitz for Congress. For me, this isn't simply about Republicans versus Democrats. It is about representation. It is about whether Northwest Indiana has a member of Congress who reflects the priorities of the people who live and work right here, or someone who continues supporting a Washington agenda that too often moves in the opposite direction. So DC Frank has been in Congress since 2021, right? We don't have to guess what he believes because we already have his voting record. So Mervan supported some of the largest spending packages of the Biden years. He voted for the American Rescue Plan, for example. He supported Build Back Better. He voted to increase the federal debt limit more than once. And families here at home have spent years dealing with higher grocery bills, higher housing costs, higher interest rates, and a federal government buried in under trillions of dollars of national debt. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that one congressman or one bill caused inflation, because that would be ridiculous. That's not how economics works. But I will ask a much simpler question that I think all of us should ask. When Washington was spending more and borrowing more, where was our congressman at? Where was he? Just look at his record, because it's right there for all of us to see. Mervan co-sponsored H.R. 1, the For the People Act, the legislation that would have dramatically expanded the federal government's role in elections traditionally administered by the states. Now, I don't know about you, but I believe Indiana should run Indiana's elections and not Washington's bureaucrats. Mervan voted for Washington, D.C. statehood. He co-sponsored Women's Health Protection Acts and supported the federal protection of abortion access that should be governed by the states and not on the federal level. On the Second Amendment, he supported Democrat gun control efforts that leave law-abiding citizens defenseless while criminals continue to carry. And then there was the issue involving our children. In 2023, Frank Mervan voted against the Parents' Bills of Rights Act. I mean, think about that for a minute. That doesn't even make sense. Parents have the ultimate responsibility for raising their children, not the government. Parents should know what their children are being taught. Parents deserve transparency from the schools that their tax dollars support. That should not be a controversial issue. That's common sense. Frank Mervan also voted against legislation intended to restrict women's rights and girls' athletic competition based upon biological sex. Do you really want your daughters wrestling boys? Do you want them being knocked around a basketball court by guys? Do you want boys in girls' lockers rooms? Again, people can disagree on these issues if they want, because that's America. But voters deserve to know how their representative voted. And then there is another issue that we don't talk about enough, and that's the money in politics. According to Federal Election Commission records, between January 2025 and June 2026, Mervan's campaign received more than $1 million from other political committees, representing roughly 43% of his campaign receipts during that period. He complains that Barb invested $1.5 million of her own money into her campaign. And I don't know about you, but I would rather have a candidate that is self-funded by money that she worked hard for, earned herself, and is willing to contribute, rather than a candidate that was bought by the establishment. But that's Washington politics. And it's exactly why I believe we need to start asking a fundamental question that we should have been asking for a long time of every elected official. Who do you work for? Because a member of Congress doesn't work for Washington. They don't work for political committees as much as they would like to think they do. They don't work for party leadership. They work for us. They work for you, and they work for me. They work for the steelworker in Gary. They work for the small business owner in Crown Point. They work for the police officer in Hammond. How about the truck driver running 8094? Yeah, they work for him or her too. The family trying to make a mortgage payment in Hobart? Yep, they're included. The senior citizen watching the price of everything climb while trying to live on a fixed income. We really need to think about those folks, and we don't think about them enough. Those are the people Northwest Indiana's congressional representatives are supposed to be answering to. And that is why I support Barb Regnitz for Congress. Because quite frankly, I want someone who will go to Washington and remember where she came from, which is right here. Someone who understands that government cannot continue to spend money as though the bill will never come due. Because guess what? Eventually, we're going to have to pay our debt. We need someone who believes parents have a voice in their children's education. We need someone who respects our constitutional rights because they were written for a reason. We need someone who understands that securing our borders is not hatred or intolerance. It is one of the basic responsibilities of a sovereign nation. And we need someone that understands that Northwest Indiana does not need another vote for Washington. We need someone who's voting for us. Washington needs a vote for Northwest Indiana. I don't expect Frank Mervan to agree with me on this. And I don't expect Barb Regnitz to agree with me on every single issue either. That's not what representation means, regardless of what some people think. I expect a representative to listen. I expect a representative to answer difficult questions. I expect a representative to remember that the office belongs to the people and not the person sitting in it. DC Frank Mervan has given us more than 5 years of votes. Now the voters get to vote on their own. We can continue down the same road, or we can choose a different direction. And that choice is completely up to you. I choose fiscal responsibility. I choose secure borders. I choose parental rights. And why wouldn't I? I'm a parent. I choose constitutional rights as a citizen. I choose accountable government. I choose Northwest Indiana because that's where I live. And that is why I choose Barb Regnitz for Congress. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless Northwest Indiana.
Dancing to my own rhythm in the